Trainier, Van Dyne,
Here.
and Winfrey. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Brooks, would you lead us in the
Join
pledge?
me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donuts, take 10.
They're in there.
Okay, we have approval of minutes from the January 31st meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving right on to old business, repealing ordinance 1030, amending condition, 15 of the citing ordinance 9972 for the Prairie View recycling. Mary, thank you.
Yeah, at this time, I'm just going to ask that you remove this from the agenda. We're getting some really mixed messages as to, at what point in time they want to move forward with this. So I think that's the best way to proceed forward.
Okay, thank you. So we need that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Proposal from Echo Engineers. I'm sorry, just a minute. We're going to number 2 first?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to flip the agenda a little bit. Number 2, which is the request by Faircom for special dues assessment. We're going to take that one first for the Exelon property with those. Come on up.
We have
Morning.
Superintendent Mitchell from Reed Custer School District, is that correct?
That's correct. Mark Mitchell, Superintendent, Reed Custer School.
Okay.
In case anyone has any questions.
Yes, please. Yeah, I'll get you started.
Thanks for having me.
This is number 2 on the agenda, so if you're...
I didn't
Go
know
ahead.
how many to bring. I did run 10 copies, so if you guys could share,
We'll get
I'll
those
pass
too.
around what I have. Yeah, I sent you an email.
Everyone should have a copy of the email that is attached to your agenda that was sent from Superintendent Mitchell.
Just so you know, Faircom is a group that right now is 32 large members, mostly taxing bodies related to energy generating facilities. Specifically in this case, the nuclear Braidwood Station. And as you know, there's a lot of legislation this spring that's upcoming related to energy. We have some bills that are sponsored, one by Senator Rezin, one by Representative Walsh, and several others that are there that are going to cost quite a bit of money in regards to additional legal fees and lobbying efforts from Faircom. And I just wanted to inform you of why Faircom is taking this initiative, and that is primarily in those bullets that you see on one of the sheets that I provided. Most importantly is the continued operation of the nuclear facilities in the state of Illinois, and that's based on the preservation of our communities. These facilities provide amazing things for the community that facility exists within and all neighboring communities. The second effort you can see would be protections in case these facilities ever were to close for the communities, and that's where Senator Rezin's bill, you can see the bulleted items there. And then obviously the third effort is just the continued fair assessment of nuclear facilities, which Rhonda Novak has been a part of now for several years. I understand that the assessor's office is currently a member of Faircom. We were slightly confused as to whether it's the county or the assessor's office, so I think that it's one in all, is the way I understand that. The annual fees for Faircom would be $2,000 a year, which the assessor's office has participated in, as well as Grundy County, Ogle County, some of the other counties where these facilities exist. So we are asking for a special assessment amount this spring of $15,000 per nuclear facility to help with the issues that I just described to you. That was decided upon based on discussions with legal and our lobbyists in regards to what they think that effort is going to take to make sure that we preserve our communities and have a seat at the table in these discussions. So if you look at the sheet that I gave you, that's a spreadsheet, you will see the taxing bodies related to the Braidwood Nuclear Station, of which the Reeds Custer School District is the largest, and that's why I typically represent this group as a whole. And our board has already approved our special assessment of $9,600, as you see on the right, and change. And everyone else on this list that I've spoken to has also agreed to the special assessment. So we are asking that the county take their fair share of this, which would be by percentage. You can see at the bottom, $1,698.89. And that's simply calculated by looking at the assessment agreement that exists with Exelon's Braidwood Station and all of us as taxing bodies and breaking that up by percentage. So that's what we're asking in this case. If you have any questions, I will definitely attempt to answer those. I also have Mr. Joe Cosgrove with me. Joe is here representing the Godly Water District and the Mosquito Abatement District in Braidwood. So are there any questions?
The only question I would have, I know this is a special assessment, but we do negotiate agreements on taxation for the nuclear power plants. And I don't know if this is, I realize this is something a little bit different, but Mary, I guess I'm looking at you. Is this going to perhaps impact that agreement or relationship, or?
I'll have to look at it a little more closely. I will say, I don't know if you're proposing like an intergovernmental agreement as to what services will be provided as part of this. I guess I looked at it this morning. I will say is the first I kind of looked at this, and I just would like to delve into it a little more deeply. I'm not saying that you can't say the space on county board, but I would like the opportunity to review it before I comment.
I would rather take this slowly, make sure it's fully vetted before we move on. Sometimes I think you're eventually going to kill the golden goose on this, the real possibility at some point they're going to close that plant down, but that's another issue. But I would like to know how this interacts with our current agreement, which of course all the taxing bodies are part of.
Correct.
So it's something that we're all agreed to, but I'd like to see if it does impact that at all.
Okay.
That's all.
Joe, Don? This is your neck of the
I don't
woods.
think it's unreasonable in as much as Grundy County's approved it. And I think I've spoken before that Exelon is a very important taxpayer in terms of revenue to Will County. And it's not a question really of just, our negotiated assessments, but as I understand it, it's really an issue of what's going to happen with this legislation that's coming in this upcoming session in Springfield. I know you kind of want to examine this further, but what's our time sensitivity for this too? Is this something that's very time sensitive that you need this done? Can it wait another month or not?
Yeah, it could wait for your approval, absolutely. I mean, we have, as you can see, we have the majority of it that will be covered. So it'd be more or less just to safeguard us for the upcoming period, several months. So you definitely have time to talk that over. And our assessment agreement, just so you know, ends with levy year 2020, which would be this December and then next year. And our goal is to continue with these positive relationships with Exelon and get another agreement. That is, hopefully the goal of all the taxing bodies.
Okay, so if we were to then have a further conversation with the state's attorney and with Rhonda Novak, our assessor, and put this on the March agenda, that would meet your need?
Yeah, that would be great.
That'd be okay, Speaker Winfrey, if we could do that. I just want to be assured that it's going to be on the next agenda.
Okay.
Table it then?
We'll table for the March agenda?
Will you need us to return, or maybe
No,
just?
I
Okay.
don't think you need to do that, unless you're welcome to join us anytime. But I'm not going to
I have
ask
plenty
you
of meetings to go to.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I'm not going to ask you to come. I think that after those two have a chance to talk together, we have a clear enough understanding to be able to move it forward. Joe?
I would just like to say, as of now, I'd be in favor of this this idea here, but like everyone had said, give the state's attorney a chance to review it to make us feel a little bit better about it. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Superintendent. Okay, so then we're going to flip back to number 1, which is the proposal from Echo Engineers. Dean Olson's coming forward, and he has with him Brad Pleman.
I can just talk through.
All right, just to give an intro, because Brad's going to present here his proposal, but we have had Eco Engineers working on this basically project since last May, June. They kind of did their feasibility study, helped us along, and then there was this phase here that we're in right now, which is phase 2, which we're receiving RFPs for the RNG plant at Prairie View. And matter of fact, we have some interviews coming up, and then eventually pick someone and hopefully in March, and have an agreement then. So Brad's and his group have helped us. They are experts at this. They've done many of these types of consulting jobs. They know all the players, so to speak. They know the markets, and it's critical because we're talking anywhere from $12 to $20 million in profit to the county per year once this thing gets going. So anyway, we need someone with expertise. That's why we're looking at Eco Engineers.
Sure.
So
yeah.
go ahead.
It's good to be. I recognize a lot of faces here, so thanks for having me back. I just wanted to spend a couple...
You got to press the star.
There it is. I just want to recap what we've done a little bit, a couple of minutes with the county to date. Like Dean said, phase 1 was really this conceptual, working with the county to understand what the opportunity with taking the biogas generated at the landfill, the Prairie View landfill, and making that into a renewable fuel. So we did a lot of that work back last year and had a lot of good discussions, and ultimately moved forward into what this phase 2, what we call the pre-development phase. So that was really a lot more due diligence. Where's the pipeline at? What are some of the options to sell this? What do the revenue and economics look like? And then part of that was assisting the county with developing the RFP that went out, received responses, 7 responses, which was great, and help analyze and be your consultant to answer questions as you look to select somebody to move into the construction phase. So we really see this phase 3 as the implementation phase. Maybe we're not quite sticking a shovel in the ground come April or May, but doing the design, working with the selected firm, finalizing the pipeline interconnection agreement, finalizing some offtake agreements, so that when the county does decide, or if it decides to move and actually do the construction of the facility, the goal is to have this offtake agreement, at least a term sheet or a binding memorandum of understanding, to you have the comfort that the revenues are going to be there. So after the 12 to 16, 18 month construction phase, that you'll have the comfort that you'll know if you put the gas in the pipeline, that you'll have that contracts on the back end revenue side. So our proposal in this phase 3 and phase 4 is really implementation, and then phase 4 is construction. So it covers a 2-year window. What we're looking at is the rest of 2020, maybe into Q4 of 2020 for phase 3, and then actually starting to build this, maybe even later this year, early in 2021, with the goal to have this online and producing gas based on some of the proposals at the end of 2021, maybe in 2022, early 2022, so that revenue generation can start. So our proposal is just to continue assisting and working with the county, finalizing those agreements, and being your consultant. It's proposed as an hourly plus time and expenses basis, just like we've been doing for the last year. So if there's less of the tasks that you want us to do, and we need to do less of the coordination, the fee will come down accordingly. But I think it's a conservative estimate, just like we did the last Phase 2 proposal.
First question?
Yeah, so you're our current consultant on this, so it's not a matter of, you're our consultant. This is just extending a contract that you currently have, or is it going to be a new contract? I guess I'm looking at you, Mary, and generally, our contracts are never open-ended. There's always not to exceed number. If we bump up to that number, we can always come back and, lift the ceiling. So I think there's still needs to maybe perhaps a little work. I don't know, Mary, I'm always looking at you on these things, but...
Do you mind if I say something?
go ahead.
Because I've been talking to Matt Guzman from her staff
Okay.
about this, so...
They're all state's attorneys.
That's true. So I know Mary's real busy, so I just want to make sure. But the master services agreement was negotiated last summer,
Right.
and that's still in place. So, but Phase 2 has now come to its end. That was, and so basically, we need to amend, or whatever you want to call it, this agreement to include Phases 3 and 4. And so it's the same agreement in terms, but it's going to be a different budget, because it's a different budget year as well.
I do understand that, so that's why I'm asking. You're already our vendor, so we're extending some of the services, so under the same terms, but there's a monetary part of that contract. And all I'm saying is that all our contracts have a cap on them. If we're going to do an hourly, we still have to say,
Yes.
and then Dean, you got to go through that, hourly. Who approves it? You alone approve it?
I approve it, and it goes through the normal process, finance and auditors.
Does it go to finance for
Yes.
approval?
Well, it goes through.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because if you're just approving it, I don't see it as a check and balance within our system. That's what I think,
That's what I've been doing.
because you're the guy, I mean, even if we require the county executive to sign off on it, I mean,
Yes.
I don't, I don't know.
Are you talking about the contract or the
I'm
bills?
talking about the dollars in the contract.
Yes, yes. Well, it goes through the
Yeah, I'm
normal
talking about-
process, just like I would approve any other bills and the consulting bills that we've had over the years. So it
But
goes,
when you do, I don't want to interrupt you, but when you're doing hourly, this is sometimes I think the problem with hourly
Yes.
is it's upon you then
yes,
to verify
yes,
the hours.
I do.
I understand. I'm just saying sometimes
ask Brad.
it becomes a little. I would probably be challenging your hours all the time.
Dean does too.
I do, I do.
So it's not that I think you don't, Dean. I'm just saying that it's usually. I'll just look to you, Mary. Should it be a little tighter?
Well, I don't think this is a different process than what we do with many of our other contracts,
Okay.
actually. So, when we have outside counsel, and Dean and I work together, and we review those invoices and make sure that the work was done, and then,
Got it. Okay.
and then it goes through finance and the auditor, who double check and make sure that there is the authority through the agreements to pay.
So your office will be involved in that approval?
I had
Could if you want 'em to.
anticipated that, but I could, if you feel more comfortable, I would do that.
Well, I'll leave it up to you. I'm just saying that we need to always watch the taxpayers'
Right.
money.
Add something there.
I don't want to set an unnecessary precedent. However, in the spirit of transparency and I think we're going to be in front of these committees a lot on this issue. So we could develop some reporting purpose just to give you an estimate or kind of a where we're at, If there was a spike in a lot of hours, we could keep you abreast of that. I mean, I don't know that we want to bring, lying in numbers every committee, but I mean, I think we can keep the committee or the county board leadership, and if there's like I say, more if there's a spike, then we could come and
Yeah.
say, hey, we just want to let the board know we've spent a lot more hours because this issue developed or something like that, but I mean, there is some authority you grant to departments, and we keep on top of them. So I don't want to, like I say, but I'm not afraid to keep you abreast of what's going on, so we
Okay.
can do that.
And I
Whatever
like
you
that,
want.
if there's any unusual spikes or
Yeah, absolutely.
it's moving, the total amount is escalating faster than we expected. We
Yes.
could know that
Yes.
early on. Joe?
Yes.
And then Mike.
This question's for Dean. When this project was first presented, I was under the impression that we were putting this on fast track due to the fact that we were burning off, like, I want to say $44,000 worth of gas per day. Are we still on that track?
Very much so. Very much so. Matter of fact, Brad can probably attest that there are very few projects as he's seen that go this fast. So as much as, like, from beginning of when we start talking to implementation to what, am I still accurate about that?
No, definitely. We work with several municipalities, City of Portland, Oregon, Des Moines, Iowa, a lot of bigger ones that have taken 4, 5, 6 years to do these projects. So I think, getting all of this accomplished within a 2.5, 3-year period is a fast track. Just the equipment alone is a 10 to 12 month lead time. That's usually the biggest issue, but I think the county has done a good job of keeping this process moving, and sometimes it doesn't feel, you get bogged down in some of the details, but I think in general it's been very fast. I did just want to say that our proposal does have that not to exceed. I was just looking at it, has that not to exceed amount for both phases. And then also, just as a transparency, we provide an invoice of each staff member's breakdown of hours and what they did each month to Dean, because he's requested that level of detail. But yeah, we're happy to follow whatever process the board would like to see from us.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I think we should, you talked about spikes, but I think it still would be good to have a routine report, maybe not every month, but every second or third month, so we keep abreast.
Sure.
Because we are doing fast track, but I also will say, I've been in I think, most of the meetings with Eco Engineers and Brad. I'm very impressed with their company. I think if we didn't have them, we wouldn't be where we're at right now on this fast track. They really helped us get on this track, and I think because of them, we'll be able to accomplish this probably faster than anybody else has. And it's not like just any other project, because there's a big win at the end, because now the money starts coming in, pays for the whole project, and we start generating money to save the taxpayers money, instead of burning off gas, like Joe said. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that part of the reason that we have Brad here today is so that the committee can be kept abreast of everything. I think Brad, Dean, and the speaker and all of leadership that thinks it's important, because it is on the fast track to keep the executive committee abreast of what's going on, because it does seem like it's going fast, and we want to make sure that you have all the details. So, I think Dean could pass along those reports, and we can make those available, and that way everybody can be on the same page.
Absolutely. Yep.
Are there other questions? Nobody, yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. In the information we did, that PowerPoint that we did, there is some updated financials too. So just as a quick update, the RIN price has doubled in the last 14 days or so.
Wow.
So the numbers look a lot better, even better than what we've talked about in the past. So
That's why I threw the 20 million number.
Step on the
And
gas.
just,
yeah, let's do it.
Can I ask a real quick question? You're going to interview tomorrow?
yes.
Yes. And there'll be a selection or recommendation after tomorrow?
Yes, and then we'll have to start negotiating if we want to get it.
You got to negotiate it, but I'm saying, but you will select, you'll rank them.
Yes.
Right.
We've already ranked them enough to get these 3 firms to the
You
interview
select, I
process.
mean, you'll rank them for the purpose of negotiations, but you have to rank all 3.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely,
Yeah, and that's tomorrow afternoon, so we are moving right along with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, Tom, Nick? Next up, we have the abatement and tint ordinance for the Village of Shanahan.
Good morning.
I'm going to let Tom give a quick history, but just my piece on this is, in 2017, we approved a tax abatement agreement, which was a little bit more unique, and Tom will explain that, but instead of just giving money back, the developer invested in the roads surrounding these developments, which I think was a very good use of this tool. So I'm going to let Tom explain that, and then we'll tell you what we need to do. So, thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. As Nick indicated, that's exactly correct. This item is related to a intergovernmental agreement that was entered into, of which the county was party to, along with all the other taxing bodies, 12 taxing bodies in total, back in early 2017, regarding the financing of public infrastructure improvements. So it's actually more than roads. It was for water main extensions to the property, to serve the property also. The idea was that the public improvements, which allowed for that development, would be installed as buildings were constructed in the Crossroads 55 Business Park, and then the property taxes generated by those buildings would be utilized to fund those public infrastructure improvements to serve the buildings. So if no buildings are built, no improvements are put in, no abatements are necessary. So we are now, 3 years later, the first building is at its full assessment year, and so this abatement ordinance is a housekeeping issue related to that agreement. All the other taxing bodies have passed and filed with the Treasurer's Office their abatement ordinances. So the last piece in the puzzle is the county, and I'll entertain any questions.
Okay. Anybody?
It's anticipated that this will be expiring in 2034, whatever.
Boy, you're taxing my mind, but...
Will it reach 100% by that time, or?
Well, it's related to the assessment on each particular building. I don't recall a date in this one. There was a different intergovernmental agreement that was done on a previous project where the village issued some bonds and the taxing bodies did the same concept in that particular case.
I thought, our state statute, I thought our abatement was the only one over there.
They have a different deal with the school?
That's correct. It's by statute, by statutory limitations is what it is.
But they broke it out for each building, I think is how we got to 34. Yeah.
Each building would be a new abatement.
Right, so, yeah, that's how it will get to 34.
Yeah, I think that each building is a maximum dollar amount by state statute, as well as a time limit that's based upon, by state statute, that would have to be reached, or that if that time runs out and that abatement isn't fulfilled, then the abatement goes away regarding that. And then it's a certain dollar amount for each, and each building is considered a project, is the way that this was structured back in 2017 when we all approved it. I believe, Mr. Gould, the one you're referring to is the other project that was to the south, which was a previous intergovernmental agreement that had a time cap put in there of a date certain.
Okay. Jackie?
Is this a property tax abatement or sales tax abatement?
Property tax.
So currently, we get property tax on this property, right?
Well, we give some back, though.
The way the agreement was approved by all the taxing bodies and is structured, the first full year of a tax abatement is when the first full year of assessment is when the abatement begins. So all the taxing bodies have received last year's property taxes, which were on a partial year assessment.
It's basically all laid out by state statute, yeah. You know, it starts out like at 50% and it diminishes, but the state statutes spell all this out for us. It's not like we can read it.
And this is new property.
Right.
So you would not have received assessments in the past because the buildings didn't exist.
Right, but we get taxes on the land currently.
But
Which you got.
typically, it's only on the new property.
Right, and
So this, Mr. Moussis, this is structured a little bit differently because this contemplates 100% tax abatement on each building until that that dollar amount associated with those improvements is realized. So it's structured a little bit differently than what you were referring to, but the concept is essentially the same.
That's how my
Joe.
recollection is that it kind of goes to you, the abatement, it doesn't go to the individual.
Well, it's just gonna, it's going to fund the public infrastructure improvements, so we keep track of the costs that were expended, we approve the costs that are expended, we share those with all the taxing bodies, and say, this is the numbers that, what went for those public improvements, and then the abatements then take that kind of off the top.
There are some upper limits on how much the cost can be, too, so if it's beyond that, the developer paid those costs, right?
That is correct.
So there was a limit on what the taxing bodies, I guess, were exposed to.
Right, there is a cap, absolutely.
Yeah. Joe?
You said this is a new building. I'm unfamiliar with that particular area. What kind of buildings are we talking about?
These are industrial development. So if you're familiar with the area that is south of Route 6, east of Interstate 55, north of Bluff Road, there's some industrial development that's occurring over there. There is the Crossroads Business Park is approximately 300 acres of property, which would contemplate the construction of up to about 4.5 million square feet of industrial space. There's also some additional buildings in that area that are not subject to any tax abatement that have occurred subsequent to this project. There's a project right along Route 6 that was constructed of a 440,000 square foot building that is not subject to any kind of abatement.
Okay.
The location again, east?
East of Interstate 55 between US 6 and Bluff Road.
Bluff is south. To the southeast quadrant of that.
So they're industrial buildings, so I guess that's kind of vague. What exactly are we going to be doing out of this building?
So currently there's a 1 million square foot warehouse distribution building that's constructed, which is the first full year is coming on the property taxes, the assessment on that building. There's a second building that's under construction here, which is going to house Amazon. So Amazon is building a building on the second building that's constructed within this development. There is additional room for one or two other buildings of about maybe another 1 million square foot total. And then that property would be developed fully.
If I could just make a comment, and I mean, this is a little off this topic, but I will say this development and these improvements, correct me if I'm wrong, were made to accommodate this because the access was not the ideal access, so it's taking the access a little further.
Actually, there were no public improvements that were associated on this side of the property.
But
You had existing township and state frontage roads that were not built to the caliber to be able to handle this type of development. They weren't wide enough, they weren't constructed of the proper depth, et cetera. There were no utilities that were over there, water main,
but that's what this did.
Sewer. That's what this does, is it helps to fund those improvements that make all of that possible in that area. Otherwise, that would not have been possible in there.
That was my point, I guess, is that this developer and the village and the partnering municipalities, or taxing bodies, I should say, are making these improvements proactively as the development's going in.
Correct.
And Shanahan, to their credit, along with a couple other communities, have really started to spell out where they're going to put their development, which I think is a positive and ties in with, I think, some of our longer-term goals of more planned, proactive development. And the last point is we've been looking, I think this was in the Legislative Committee, Route 6 between 55 and the Hobart Road Bridge as a future improvement that's needed. That's state, but still we're pushing for that development because there are these developments and there's residential. So these all kind of, I'm connecting the dots a little bit, but this is where all these things merge together, what we're doing. And Shanahan is doing a good job of trying to plan these developments along the highways and making the improvements with the developers and this is really not directly, it's taxpayers indirectly, but it's helping, so.
Well, it's the taxpayers that are actually going to be going into these properties. It's the buildings that are built in here. We're not taking existing property tax dollars from other areas in the community and fund these improvements. These are coming solely from those buildings being constructed there. So if those buildings are never constructed, there's no abatement regarding that, because the public improvements are not being put in. What we took we were very careful to delineate what public improvements were going to be required for this, and that these abatements and all the taxing bodies, the intent was to fund those. It's not funding the construction of a building, it's not funding anything of those, it's funding the public improvements that are necessary to be able to handle that traffic and those needs that are generated by those facilities. So at present, the Amazon facility is projected to employ 500 to 1,000 jobs, depending upon the time of year that are going to be in that location. There's other buildings in there. So it's a significant amount of employment that's going to be coming to the county, not only from that building, but from other buildings in the area. So these improvements are necessary in order to accommodate those.
And the infrastructure improvements accommodate everybody, not just the people that are going in there.
That's correct.
And just one other thing is, you may remember that this is the same area where they're proposing the Double Diamond interchange, so that would also be a part of the whole complex there. So it allows the entire area to be uplifted. And then just north of there is the Cullinan property, where that also is going to be restaurants, housing, movie theaters, and all of that. So it's an uplift to the entire area. Jackie?
Okay, so Bluff Road, you're talking about improvements. That's not a county road? That's
a local road, right?
Local road.
That's not contemplated in this agreement, because that property, Bluff Road, is outside of the improvements required of this property. There are other improvements being done to Bluff Road based upon some other development that's coming to that area because of projects like this.
I just want to make sure we have good roads that can accommodate not only the people that might end up working in these buildings, but the people that are going to construct these buildings.
Sure.
And that we're not, that we're planning for ways for them to get there. And the other question I had was related to our fairy tale wish for Ileana. This has nothing to do with that. The connection for Ileana would be further south, right?
Yeah, there's
Much further
nothing
south.
regarding the Ileana.
That's what I don't live in this area. I live at 53 and 55. Amazon and the mess that they're about to make in our intersection in our town there. So I don't want to see that happen anywhere else. And one of the problems that I've heard, even with the two intermodals, there's no workers around in those areas to take those jobs. And so people are having to drive mega miles to get there, to get this $15 job. And then, of course, they'll never be able to afford housing in that area. So, I mean, if you're talking about even another Amazon facility with another 5,000 employees, 500, I'm not sure where these people are coming from. And where, our roads are already a disaster, but
and again,
but at least I understand this abatement is strictly going right back into the land.
It's going right back into the public improvements associated with that. And one of the other improvements that are being that is currently under construction is a traffic signal at US Route 6 and the Eastern Frontage Road, which is now Bradley Street.
Does 6 have another name? Because it doesn't show up on here. I found it. Eames. It is. Okay, thank you.
So that traffic signal was about approximately $1.5 million to construct that traffic signal. That's all being upfronted by the development within that area, other properties within that area, and a portion of that is being funded through this too. So that's something that was actually not on the state's radar. We convinced the state that there was a lot of improvements that are coming to this area, and we got the state to go along with allowing that construction to happen actually before it was even warranted of that traffic signal. So that was a proactive improvement on some necessary public improvements that were, frankly, in my opinion, already needed in the area. but we had the dollars for that through the development. So, and as Nick also indicated too, we've taken a very conscientious approach to where these facilities and this type of development is along the I-55 corridor, and we've limited it to south of Route 6, east of I-55, north of Bluff Road. We've probably said no more times than we've said yes to these types of developments within that area because they do not go along with our long-range plans and visions for the community in that particular area. So we continue to take that approach.
Joe?
I would just like to say that you can see my hesitation, but I do see that the village of Shanahan, their aldermen and councilmen have all agreed to this, so I'm gonna go along with those elected officials on this one. So.
Thank you. Other questions for Nick and Tom? All right, then I need that motion.
Make a motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, adoption of successor collective bargaining agreement between County Will County Board of Health, and AFSCME 1028. Is that you, Sue? I see you back there. Are there any questions on that? Do people have a look through their packets? Were there any questions? Looks like not. Motion?
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Authorizing the county executive to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement for 20 to 24 HUD Consolidated Plan and 2020 Action Plan. Motion?
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Authorizing the county executive to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement. I'm on the same one. Authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the County of Will and Entitlement County and the City of Joliet, a metropolitan city. All in motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing contributions to United Way. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Awarding bid for farmlands, or farm lease rather, for agricultural purposes on approximately 49 to 50 acres of county landfill property.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Homer Glen and the County of Will for a one-day household hazardous waste cleanup event.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Awarding bid for electronics recycling.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement between Wilmington and Will for electronics recycling.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement between Manhattan and Will for electronic recycling.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Replacement hires for the ICT department. This is for a programmer.
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Another replacement hire. This is for an infrastructure tech.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Replacement hires for Sunny Hill.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we have some proclamations. Mike, Mark, we have a couple.
I don't have the sheet.
Marching Woods.
We have, yes, we'll be doing the,
All former board members to attend, recognizing Ron on his retirement, Ron Coleman from the Land Use Department. There will be an award presented to Jim Glasgow by the Animal League Defense Fund, recognizing the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters, and then recognizing February as Black History Month.
okay. Okay. Got that. And then we have appointments by the county executive.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table that. We're still in discussion about this person for
Okay.
Second.
Second?
Table.
Table the one for the fire protection.
Yes.
Yes, the others will go forward, it's just that one. And we have motion and a second for the table, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay. All right, we'll move to the committee reports. Land Use and Development? Okay, Finance?
The next Finance Committee meeting is going to be in April, so any finance-related items going to be discussed at the, for March, will be discussed at the executive meeting on March 5th. So, but the regular scheduled meeting will resume in April.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Public Works? Okay. And then we have Judicial.
I will have something for judicial for once. I just want to let everybody know that the expungement fair, the second annual one, is going to be June 13th. It's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you could get the word out to your constituents, for anybody who might need the service, there is a pre-registration which needs to be completed by April 1st, and you can email all your application to the circuit clerk's office at circuitclerk@willcountyillinois.com.
And just adding
there's no
to that, we
fees.
have plenty of the posters and smaller sheets of those, so please feel free to take those, post them in your area so that we get as many people in as possible, because there's not a cap this time. We'll take anybody who gets their paperwork, gets their information in. Jim?
Yeah, and did Amanda Cook stay today? I'm actually going to, I guess, speak a little bit on behalf of Amanda, because she brought it up in relation to judicial and certain reporting. Did she talk to you at all about this? I think she talked like public health. She talked to you?
She brought it up at the meeting about having the, someone from the sheriff's office, come to the committee, but under the rules, as far as reporting goes, the sheriff's office fell under the judicial committee and not under public health and safety.
So you know, I guess what I'm asking is maybe she could explain it further. I mean, I think she wanted to get certain statistics on I hate to use the word crime statistics, but, you know, incident statistics on, and I think partly because I think sometimes things get quite a bit exaggerated. You know, I believe for the most part, we have a pretty safe county, but of course, you know, people get on the internets and all that, and things get distorted, and perhaps people get the wrong impression of how safe or unsafe our communities may be. So maybe if you can put that on as a discussion item.
I'll talk to them. We're not meeting in March because everybody's going to be gone for NACO, so I'll discuss it and with her exactly what she was looking for, and then I think she went to Disney World or something. So if
I think she's leaving today or this afternoon.
Yeah, she got out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll take care of that, Mr. Markham? Okay.
Speaker Winfrey?
Yes.
I just wanted to address Mr. Moustis that she had brought up at the committee meeting some occurrences in the Frankfurt area.
Yeah.
And that was how this discussion started. Okay, so it was your...
Meeting tonight.
Yeah.
You know, I know most of you are probably not familiar with my district, but we probably have the largest unincorporated population out of all your districts. And those who aren't familiar with Frankfurt Square, for example, which is almost as big as Mokina, Frankfurt, you know, it's a large, almost village or city, unincorporated, and it's patrolled strictly by our deputies. So I think all in all, the sheriff's department does a pretty good job in there. And of course, you know, we're not different than any other community. We're getting a rash of people leaving their car doors open, and people go through their cars and take the stuff out. And, but it's, you know, but sometimes I think it tends to get over exaggerated within the, you know, the blogging community. We are meeting tonight. We're having a meeting tonight. The sheriff's department will be there along with the state's attorney's office, and so we're going to have an open forum for the community of Frankfurt Square tonight. But, the villages of Frankfurt and Mokina experience some of the same things. But I think our sheriff's department does a pretty good job, and, I believe we're pretty safe communities. I think our violent crimes are probably almost next to nothing, but, and that's why I think it's good maybe to report this stuff so people get the real statistical ups and downs of perhaps incidences that happen in the
hear an
community.
incident and think everything's gone to pot, so to speak.
And like I said, I mentioned Frankfurt Square, but we have Arbery Hills, which is another unincorporated, it's a dense subdivision, but it's unincorporated. So Sheriff's Department for my district is probably a little bit more important than some of the other districts.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Public Health and Safety?
We have no resolutions this month, Speaker Winfrey.
Okay, thank you. Legislative?
We have the legislative agenda to bring forward for the state for approval.
Okay, thank you.
So please take a look.
You've completed it?
Yeah, and not that we aren't going to take up other issues as the year goes on, because I think there was something we talked about actually in the meeting on Tuesday. We said, we'll do a one-pager on that when we're ready.
The CCDD,
Yeah.
some of that stuff. And also, it's attached, but it's not all prettied up, I guess, is the word. So,
It had the nice cover.
It does,
picture of the courthouse on it.
Yes, we're going to do the courthouse this year.
On the front of it, and it's much smaller, so it won't take so much time for you to look through it and read it. And I found, I think I sent you an email, I found one acronym that needed to be spelled out, and one other error, it seems like, just typo kind of things.
Yes.
So if you take a look at it and you see anything, please let Maura know.
Yes, please let me know. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Capital?
I don't have any resolutions to bring forward. I was out the flu last week. I want to thank Ray Tuanello for taking the lumps for me in my absence. But I don't have any. It was just discussion. We have no resolution to bring forward.
Thank you. And at Executive Committee, you've heard before, but I'll just remind everyone that at the committee meeting on the 20th, we will have a memorial service at the beginning of the program for Margie Woods. We've invited a number of people who have served with her before to come and participate in that. So that'll be at the very beginning of the program. And Floyd will be here. Her husband will be with us, and possibly some other family members. So we want to do that and recognize the time she spent on this board and the work she put forward in this community. So we want to acknowledge that, and that'll be at the front of the meeting. We have only the two resolutions. One is on repealing Ordinance 1030 on the citing.
That'll be removed. That's
Right. Move that one. And then the other one is authorizing the county executive to execute the tolling agreement for Hubolt. We needed to do,
I think
okay, so we're good with that one. Okay, so the first one will be removed, the second one is all good. And that's all that I have. We tabled the appointment. Do we have any comments from the public? Public. Third time, public. No. Okay. Board members? No? You're good. Okay. And I think that's all that we have today. We didn't need anything.
Make a motion to approve the county board agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mary, do we have anything else that needed to come from an opinion? Okay. So unless anyone has something else, I'll...
Motion to adjourn.
Do you have public comments?
I did.
Yeah, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We stand adjourned.
We went here earlier.